May 1st, 2024, at 12 o'clock at night, if you look east, you will see this Scutum constellation without a telescope just above the ground. You know, what's the weirdest thing about this constellation? Well, last year in the month of September, when an Australian research team was detecting some radio signals in the night sky, so that some common objects, emitting radio waves, whose neutron stars, pulsars, or their magnetically stronger siblings could be detected, then surprisingly, they saw a mysterious radio signal coming from the direction of the Scutum constellation, which was not matching any known object. And what's worse? This signal kept flashing continuously for about 5 minutes, and then suddenly disappeared and came back exactly after 22 minutes. Now, after this mysterious incident, when a little more investigation was carried out on this signal, then it was found that this signal has been getting to us continuously for the last 35 years. And yet we have not been able to find its exact source. Every time just one message would pop up on the computer screen, match not found. So now the question arises, is there any alien civilization trying to tell us its location through this strange radio signal? Like kind of saying, hey, we are here, because it is mostly possible to repeat the same signal every 22 minutes for the last 35 years, if its source is an unnatural object. An ordinary pulsar or magnetar, for example, slowly loses its energy and stops sending radio signals after a point. So there is one possibility that maybe it has an unnatural source. Or the other possibility is that there are some objects in this universe that scientists have not been able to understand completely yet, and these radio waves are emitting from them. So friends, what exactly can these radio signals be? We will have to do a little research on our level. For this, we will have to start the story from the very beginning. How was this discovered first? Now, first of all, this weird radio signal was discovered by an undergraduate student for his ordinary college project. Not for a serious purpose. Actually, the story of this signal starts from another signal, which was discovered by Tyrone O'Doherty, an undergraduate student at Curtin University in Australia in 2020. O'Doherty was working on a project under which he was identifying unknown blinking radio signals from the old data of the southern sky. Now, during this project, he found a radio signal from a 2018 data, which was throwing the beam of radio signals towards the Earth like a beam coming from a lighthouse. So, when he told his mentor, radio astronomer Natasha Hurley-Walker, about this beam, he himself started researching this signal. First of all, he saw the location of that signal in different frequency data. But unfortunately, he did not find any clues about the signal there. But then he saw a pattern hidden in the radio data. He saw that this signal is being repeated every 18 minutes, and so she immediately knew that this could be a game-changing discovery of her career. But unfortunately, before she could study that object in detail, that signal disappeared within just 3 months. And seeing this unexpected disappearance, she and her team got even more confused. What could this object be? So, to find the answer to this, they scanned the entire southern hemisphere again to find just one clue. And even after researching for many months, they did not find a clue. And so, they were about to stop their study when they found a signal that was coming back after 22 minutes. And because of India, yes, India, this study started again. Now, after the mysterious disappearance of that 18-minute signal, Natasha and her team started scanning the entire southern sky with the Murchison Winfield Array Radio Telescope in Australia. And then they found another signal similar to the one found in the Scutum constellation near Sagittarius, which kept coming back every 22 minutes. They named it J183910. But now the question arises, was it related to that 18-minute signal? And to find out this, Natasha again studied the past radio data of that entire region. Actually, this signal was already detected by the Indian and American radio telescopes in 1988. But after its detection, that data was lost in a pile of data. And then, during this current study, when this data was revisited again, they found out that this signal has been continuously repeating every 22 minutes for the past 35 years. And when it comes, it gives a strong radio burst for 5 minutes. Now, interestingly, this was a very good news for the astronauts, because with the help of these signals, the astronomers could now know how far that unknown source object is from us. And so, when these calculations were completed, it was found out that this source is 15,000 light-years away from the Earth, That means, now only one thing was left to know. That what exactly is this object 15,000 light-years away from us? So in this search, first of all, Walker and his team started matching all the known objects that emit radio signals to this mysterious signal. And surprisingly, they found similarities in the old data and this signal. There were many radio signals in that data that were blinking exactly like J183910. And that blinking pattern was repeating after some time. So, when they researched the source of these similar signals, they found out that all the old signals were emitting from the typical category of neutron stars, pulsars. Now friends, this is interesting. What happens is that when big stars explode 10 to 25 times from the sun, they turn into super-dense neutron stars smaller than that instead of becoming white dwarfs. Now the mass of some neutron stars here is so high that due to gravity, their matter starts collapsing within itself. This compresses the stars, and their size becomes smaller, and so, to conserve their angular momentum, these stars start rotating very fast. This is similar to when a ballet dancer pulls in her hand. Then the speed of her movement increases, and such rapidly rotating neutron. Death Valley. And basically the rotation rate of the pulsars in this region slows down to such an extent that they are able to emit radio waves in a small amount of difficulty. And when the pulsars cross this death line, their rotation slows down to such an extent that now they are unable to emit radio waves. But when astronomers plotted the signal they got in this graph, they were just baffled. Because as you can see, this signal was emitting radio waves even beyond the death line. So one thing was for sure, that this object is definitely not a pulsar. But then they were struck that there is a special category in pulsars. Magnetars. That is, stars whose magnetic field is 1,000 times more than that of normal pulsars. In addition, they also show a slightly longer pulsation period in comparison to pulsars. And that's why scientists thought that maybe this kind of stars will be able to explain this signal. But when they plotted this star in this graph, they saw that it was not even near that signal. Because, due to being highly energetic, X-rays also emit along with radio waves. But the signal they got was only emitting radio waves, and that's why astronomers had to rule out the possibility of it being a magnetar. That is, all in all, the signal scientists got was neither a pulsar nor a magnetar. And it was clear that the radio signal they recently got was not matching any known object for astronomers. And that's why, according to them, this signal is still a long-standing mystery. But friends, when we were researching on this topic, then we found out that apart from pulsars and magnetars, there is another special category of stars called white dwarf pulsars, which may possibly match this strange signal. Actually, white dwarf pulsars are such white dwarfs that pulsate like pulsars. Usually white dwarfs are formed by the explosion of a star with less mass than the sun, and usually their magnetic field is not as strong as pulsars, and that's why they don't even pulsate. But when white dwarfs become 0.8 times as massive as the sun, then they become so dense that just like pulsars, they also generate a strong magnetic field. The only difference is that where neutrons and electrons decay in pulsars, the white dwarfs are originally made up of electrons. So as soon as these charged electrons come in contact with the magnetic field, they emit periodic light flashes like pulsars. But their pulsating period, which is opposite to pulsars, is 100 to 1,000 seconds. And now, if you remember, the period of the signal we recently got is 22 minutes. If I convert it into seconds, then the period is 1320 seconds. So even though this value is outside the range of white dwarf pulsars, in comparison to other pulsating stars, this is the closest match of this signal. And that's why, friends, if you ask me my opinion, then I personally feel that this mysterious radio signal is coming from a white dwarf pulsar. That is, with this you can understand how many things in this universe that we still haven't fully understood. Like even supernova explosions, for example. You all know that when a small white dwarf explodes, it is a type 1 supernova. And then when a star 8 to 40 times heavier than the sun explodes, it is a type 2 supernova. But recently scientists have found a mysterious supernova explosion called the Scary Barbie explosion, which has been emitting 100 times more energy than any supernova explosion in the last 3 years. And it doesn't fit into any of these types. Now, if you want to know about which explosion I'm talking about, and why it was called the Scary Barbie explosion, why it is so dangerous, then I've already made a video on it, which you can click here and watch. It's very interesting, and it's also a mystery of the universe. And if you enjoyed today's video, if you learned something new, then do hit a like. And